Hey, it's Terry, your favorite no bullshit artist and business coach, and you're listening to Terry Talks, where we discuss all things taboo, uncovering art industry nonsense, grounding you in confidence and leadership to run an arts business with unwavering power and grit. Hi, this is Terry, and you're listening to another episode of Terry Talks. Today, we are going to do things a little bit differently than what I have been doing. So far, we're on our 8th episode. I have been on a roll. I have done an accidental mini training. I have done different episodes on really niche topics. So if you haven't yet dove into those other episodes, I highly recommend it. And if you haven't yet unlocked the mini training, that is essentially how to give your arts business an audit. And I actually go through a checklist. So it really is a very hands-on training. So let's get into today's episode. I have a very special guest. And I am going to do a live coaching session today. I want to share with you a very, very common challenge amongst artists and social media. So this is going to be a good one. Before we dive into that and we get our guest on, I want to give a couple of reminders. Right now, I have made an announcement for one of my offers that is going to be discontinued in 2024. It is a private coaching package for 4 months that still includes everything. And then there's a bonus for every single Creators Power Hour that you can join. This is being discontinued because I would like to change some of my long-term offers, which are 6, 9, and 12 months. But this offer is also going to be given a $1,000 discount off the top of the price. So if you're interested in working with me, this is a great way for low commitment, a lower cost and lower investment, and a shorter time for you to really expedite and kind of rocket from where you are right now. This is for the artist who has been maybe hitting a roadblock, but really wants to go to like the next level in the video game. So if you're interested, I'm going to post the application link at the bottom. It's like pressure free. You apply, we hop on a call, we connect, we chat, we look further into your goals and what you're thinking about, and we make sure it's the right fit. So that's number one. The second thing is I have developed officially the Creators Power Hour referral program. So anyone who refers someone to our office hours, which are monthly, will get a free 20-minute consultation right after the Creators Power Hours so that we can continue a more personalized conversation based on whatever you brought to the table that day. So those are the two kind of updates I have. We are going to invite my client, Jalena Hay, who is an abstract drawer. She has been working with me for the last, I would say, 2.5 months, since the end of August. We're already in the middle of October. And we've had some social media developments happening and challenges and new habits and new ways of doing things that she has not experienced before. And this happens for a lot of artists who have used their social media as just a platform to share their artwork, right? But selling your artwork on a platform is a completely different ballgame. So I am going to invite her in, and then we're going to talk about the 2 questions that we are going to coach on today so that you all can go ahead and see what resonates, what feels very similar, and we're going to try and problem solve together. So let's get her in here. Okay, here we are. Hello. You are in
Hey,
the studio. I love it. I'm in a very plain background situation. So this is Jelena. And like I said, we've been working together for only about 2.5 months, and so much has happened already in her arts business and in her personal and professional development. Um, we have come up with 2 questions that will target some things we've already been working on, but we are going to dissect it a little bit further and come up with a strategy that really will complement what she's already doing. What I first want to do is celebrate you for the things that have already been going really well, some of the things that you've overcome, some of the feelings that you've had since working together. And we actually have a bunch more months together. We are doing an in person, which I have not done since pre pandemic, which I only did pre pandemic. I was only meeting people in person. I'd meet them at a bar or at a cafe during the day, and we'd have our 1 hour call. And it was great. So being on Zoom for 3 years has been a little weird, but I'm excited for our VIP day. So I'd love for you to share, like 3 things that you have felt an area of growth. What's been going on? Share with everybody like what you've tackled maybe first, and what you've felt more comfortable doing now as opposed to before we started working together.
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is just looking at my notes. Definitely like being present. And I know that that can be a bit vague, but I was using social media as like I had no agenda. It was me putting my art up, but I felt like I wasn't taking myself seriously as an artist. Like this is who I am, and so want to do. So I feel like I'm way more present. Even things like showing my face, like, I remember, just changing my icon on my Instagram, like it's me, it's my face, showing up, talking about my work, putting prices on my art, saying it's for sale, like all those things were, yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. Like I'm, taking this seriously. So that felt good. And people started to notice. So, that also feels good. Second thing is I sold my first piece. So yay, really exciting. I was like, oh, this is yay, it's sold. So that was awesome. And the third thing that sticks out is I got my work into a magazine. So that's going to come out in November.
Thing.
And it's crazy to think it's just been like 2.5 months. I don't know. It
Yeah,
feels like forever and not enough time at the same time.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because once you're, and people used to say this to me all the time, like, once you're open to it, it'll come to you, you'll receive it. And I was like, fuck you. Like, no, I don't really care what you're saying. I'm not receiving it. And I've applied to 100 things. But it's true. Like, when I don't have a side gig and I'm fully open and applying to different things, and like my mind is much more like, okay, like I could just apply and see what comes of it. I think that that really does, like, other people see that. Okay, she's available. She's got something available. She's got something for me to look at. She's got something for me to read about. And that stuff really does translate. I remember you telling me, you're like, oh my God, my friends notice. Like my Instagram looks different. It feels different. It's like a professional resume now. Um, the profile pic was a big deal. I mean, to me, these are micro actions that are big steps, you know what I mean? And I saw you kind of like doing those things rather quickly, but it did make a big impact, and it made that sale come to life. Um so that's dope. And give me one more thing that maybe has like changed for you.
Um, let's see. Definitely. Well, okay, I'll give you two. One thing, like when I was applying for the magazine, what I realized I had, which I didn't have before, was just more organization. So we've been working on this idea of a press kit, which is, evolving, but I wasn't like scrambling to find images and throw it in and just write something up on the fly. Like, no, like it doesn't work anymore. So even though it's still very much a work in progress, I had something to start from. I was like, I have this bucket of images that I'm going to be applying with. I have this artist statement that's like it's where I want to be right now. So I felt like more organized, more professional, not just scrambling.
Yeah. And that's just like the best. Those pieces are just so good to have, because your next application that could be for like a major group show, or like a gallery you've been looking at for a while and like scouting out the scene, like you're not going to feel that like overwhelm. You're just going to go and apply because you've
It's
already
the
have.
confidence.
Yeah,
That
I've
was the
got
second thing. Yeah.
a couple of I have like a three sentence bio. I've got that already. Let me throw that into that application, and it's just like a repeating process. Okay, so let's dive in to what we were talking about, social media stuff. I asked you for two questions. I gave Jalena an intake form, just like I would for any other strategy call. So if you book a one-on-one with me, you will automatically get an intake form, and it asks you two questions. One is, tell me about your business. And then the other question is, what do you want to talk about on this call? So I'm just going to read you. The first question is, after the for sale post, after you post a static image and you are like, this is for sale, here's my price, like everything is so formatted, everything looks good. What else do I say, do, and share? And the second question kind of ties into like, okay, then like how often do I share that? How often do I, in the word consistency, like how intense do I have to be after that? So give me some background on what's been happening in that area. Give me like an example, and then we'll dive into like how we're going to tackle this.
Sure. So as I've been, trying to stay organized, I've been making images of my work, like formatted in a way where I know I want it to show up on stories. So, whether it's in a frame on a wall, and I know like this is the image I'm going to use to promote and sell the artwork. And then we've worked with like where do I want to put the information, and then and like the link to the shop and all that. So I'm like, I got it down. Um
All the pieces.
so, right. So I'm like, I have all the pieces. And then what I would do is, I'd put it in my stories and, okay, it's there. Like, people, see my story, buy it. I don't know. And then, we would have this conversation where, and this has happened a few times where, you know, we'd go back and forth, and the problem is there would be something missing. Like it would be like, well, okay, people see that your work's for sale, but like how are you connecting with your audience? Or yeah, I'm trying to think of the word. Of course, I'll probably think of it after the call, but I feel like there are certain words that I would start to hear. And I was like, right, like I posted there. So then, like, how many times do I put in my stories? Or like, what else do I do? Like, one time I remember, and like, it was after the dentist, which is not a good time.
I
So
remember,
my so
remember
my
that.
mouth was like half numb, but I was like, I have to show up. So I like went on stories. I was like, hey, like I was like, hey everybody, like I have my shops open. Like it was not the best kind of story, but I was like, is that me advertising? Like I wasn't sure at all.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. I also remember every single time you post a static image of an amazing piece of artwork with all the details, the shop is open, like everything is so organized with those things that, again, we both noticed that there's a gap between you and this static image. And we need to fill that space with more depth, with more heart, with more personalization, right? Because I could go into a gallery, I could be connected to a piece of artwork, but I could still want to talk to that artist. I could still want more insight. I could still want to go to their Instagram. Like I'm going to want more if something interests me. And it's easy. It's you can provide that. You're not like a dead artist, right? Like we can still reach you, and that connection and that trust that you build after the static image is what's going to make the sale poppin'. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the word consistency, because it's a pain in my ass. I think the word consistency is probably a pain in everyone's ass. It's really a fancy, pressure filled word for habit. That's it. Everybody who's listening, This is perspective shift number one. It really is just a fancy word for habit. Okay. And it's overused and causes like this fear that if you aren't consistent, all hell's going to break loose. Your business is going to fall to the ground. Everything is going to burn. There's going to be just like, nothing left. Or the question of what level of intensity do you have to feel and be in order to like get that feeling of consistency, right? And so, like, if I post every single day, is that intensity enough for me to walk away and be like, yes, I was consistent this week? Like, I had it, like I did everything I was supposed to. That's not fucking realistic. I don't give a shit what any social media manager tells you. First of all, social media managers handle that for you. So it's, they can post every day. That's like their entire existence, right? But for us, we are wearing those multiple hats. Everyone knows that. Like that's the most relatable thing when you are, whether you're starting out or you've been in this for 20 years and you still haven't outsourced these things, right? Because that's just not where you wanted to invest your money, or it wasn't a thing for you. And so what does it mean to build that habit? Like, how hard do you have to go? So I think perspective shift number one is that you can be consistent and not be on every single fucking day. You can be consistent and not be obsessed with it. Okay. I definitely have ingrained, like, I should probably tattoo like the word Instagram on my arm because it has been a built in system, like into my brain at this point. Like, it is like a sixth thumb. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like something that I also enjoy. So that's a
And I
huge,
notice how comfortable you are with it too.
I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's really part of it. I have definitely turned Instagram haters into Instagram lovers over the course of 7 years. I used to do a masterclass on Instagram for introverts and on Instagram for creatives and how to really build in the fun so it doesn't feel so fucking awkward, because I'm not an introvert by nature, but it doesn't mean that I don't have to push myself to do things on certain days that I'm not feeling it, and I've grown accustomed to when I can step away, when I'm really like, if I'm depressed, if I'm feeling overly anxious or have like too much going on the outside, like I'm not going to be on. But I also mentioned to you, the best time for me to be on is when my brain is the most happy, which is in the morning. And I'm just like making, my tea and doing my thing. You can be consistent daily or weekly and have the same exact results. Okay. So, like, that intensity can come in waves and still work just depending on how you're showing up. So, that quality over quantity for me is key. Um, and it has to shift in terms of like a static image, a story. Like, it goes kind of in a zigzag as to like what you're showing, which is going to build like a holistic level of confidence because you're kind of touching on little bits and pieces of everything. On a day where you just don't want to fucking write a long ass caption and deal with hashtags, you know, you could show up on stories for 2 minutes or make a 15-second reel and you've kind of like covered that base. You've kind of like, that makes me feel consistent. But that's how that's my level of capacity, right? And I do think that people need to, of course, step out of your comfort zone, but at the same time, you have to know what your limit is as well. Like, if you can't post it all that week, then you really got to be on stories and leverage something else that's like a quick kind of immediate boom, no editing, no caption. Use the auto captions, use the filters, like it's there for you. Instagram is giving it to us, literally spoon feeding us every single, even AI. We know they're spoon feeding us at this point. We're becoming so fucking lazy. And secondly, part of showing up on social media is that there's a yearning for more and understanding that social media can give that to you. So if you can make a $400 sale from one story. To me, I'm going to clench my butt cheeks. I'm going to hold on tight and I'm going to fucking get my ass on there. Like, that is part of like the showing up as the artist in business, not just the artist. And you're in the midst of like the teenage angst. You know, you're like, oh my God, like my skin doesn't look good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're getting those like growing pains, which is totally fucking normal for someone who's transitioning from, whether they're just a hobbyist at the time, or there's someone who's like leaving their job and now has to take it super seriously, or really does want that passive income. Like they're making art anyway. So like you might as well sell it. They're going to make art for the rest of their fucking lives unless they want to be buried under it, which is also fine. Then they should probably sell it and like make the most of it. So what resonates with you right now, just based on that like first perspective shift?
Yeah, I would say a lot.
I know.
It's funny. I was like, yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
I was thinking of something where, and I also feel like maybe it's just a lot of artists I know, but as an artist, you get so used to, you're like behind the scenes, you're in your studio, you're uh, doors closed, and um, and a lot of well, some, my good friends that are artists, just hearing you talk, I'm realizing like, oh, even as my friends, like we don't show up like that. We don't talk about like our work or what we're doing, or you get into this habit of not showing up. So it's like, in my head, I'm thinking, and like you're saying too, like, how do I start to change that habit? How do I start to, um, and it's also maybe getting more comfortable about talking about my work, and how do I start to find ways to show up, right? Even when I haven't showed up all week, or I feel like there's nothing to say. So it's finding that middle ground of like, I'm not totally confident I have something to talk about or to show. So then what do I do just to stay consistent and to stay in people's minds? Like, I'm still here, I'm still working, I'm still selling.
What is the definition of consistency for you? What
Yeah.
would that look like? Yeah, what would that look like in a real like Jalena? Like, how do you understand that?
When you first said the word consistency, I think you said like it could be good and bad, because it's like I'm all for consistency, but sometimes you get in this consistent habit and it can feel like like it can feel like a lot. So what I've been trying to do, first of all, is to like, I've tried different things. I was like, I'm gonna like get super organized and get in my calendar and be like, this day I'm posting this day I'm posting that, and like I'm on it. And then that didn't work. So I was like, well, what can work for me to transition into this consistency? So then I made a list of like different stories, different reels, different posts, and I put it on my studio wall. I don't think I told you this, but then I forget to look at it. so
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
like, okay, but I'm like trying to ingrain it in my
So
brain. So
normal. So normal. So normal.
I'm like, PS. um, so then I just try to tell myself, okay, I know, like I could, from my work, like people like to see the reels.
Yeah.
So I'll set up, I have like a little arm thing, and, the phone sits, I'll record what I'm drawing, and I'll just have those recordings. So sometimes I'll post it right away. And it's good to have it, like we spoke about, kind of like in my pocket. Sometimes
Yes.
I'll post it when I don't have anything to post. And then it's like when you start to see results too, it feels a little more rewarding. So I'll see people liking it and reacting to it. Um, and then I know, okay, that's one thing I could do, that I know how to do it. It's not difficult, and it's people are reacting to it. Um, I think there's the reels, and then of course, I could show an image of something, artwork, when it's done, like it's for sale. So there's a few things that I know that have been helpful, but I know like that's just step one. Like, what's
Yes.
the next step?
Yeah, and those micro actions, like I said, are making a very big dent in that transit, that sort of mental transition from just posting and whatever, and like doing it whenever without major purpose, except to share, like to share what you're doing and like what you're creating. But using social media as a tool to run your business is it like, I'm so thankful for Instagram, how it's connected me with people across the fucking world. And how many people have found me. I know you found me just like Googling, which is like
Yeah.
also amazing. Um, and I think that you have like leveraged now the idea of reels, which is so important because there are people who have not jumped on that quite yet because it is a little more technical. You do have to, like, you can add audio, you can add, and I know that the first time you were like, okay, what could I do aside from like hopping on stories? And I was like, it's like, use a voiceover. I'm like, you have a great voice. Like, that was like, that to me was like so impactful. Like, that to me was like, oh my God, I can hear her voice, like what she sounds like. I can envision like what she's looking like in her studio. Like, that's a very personal thing. Just like anyone who's listening to this podcast right now. Like, I could think I sound like a man, but at the same time, like, somebody is listening to the context, someone's listening to the perspective, someone's listening to our story right now, and they're saying, yes, I get it, I'm getting into her head, you know what I mean? And that's really where the trust starts to build, and maybe more people will listen to this episode because they're connecting to maybe just my voice, or if they're watching me, they like my sweater or they like your jacket, like whatever it is, those tiny little details is what will build the human to human friendships. There are times where I'll walk into a bar and feel connected to someone immediately, like from across the room. I'm like, damn, I love what she's wearing, or like, he's hot, you know what I mean? Like, that's like the natural pheromones, and we have to do that through screens. So it does have to be intensified and magnified, and like do it on purpose. um but I love that you have found a couple of solutions to getting to that place of showing up. It doesn't have to be a big leap, and I've stopped actually using that word altogether. Like, when everyone's like, take the leap into working with me, just take that leap. To me, a leap is like me trying to like jump across a huge puddle. It's like awful. You don't have to fucking take a leap. You can
There's
put
that very big risk of falling in the middle, like,
right,
yeah.
and you've got no rain boots on, and you've like, it's just a disaster, and it doesn't feel good. You know, I see some people who can dive into a pool and it's cold as batshit, or walk into the beach water and it's fucking cold. That's not me. I'm gonna walk in halfway. I'm gonna pull some like water on my arms, acclimate, see
Yeah,
what,
they'll probably walk out if it's too cold and be like, I'm good. This is not for me.
or that. So you've got three types of people, right?
Yeah.
But in this instance, we've got money on the table, and we're leaving money on the table when we don't show up that way, right? We're leaving connections. We're leaving, gallery owners who are online as well now, scouting out people. Like, we don't think about who's watching, how they're watching. I don't need fans. Like, I don't need fans, and that's kind of why I even started this podcast, because I was like, wow, Instagram is making, people look like influencers. I'm not there to tap dance, even though my lives are popping. Like, it's fun. We have a party, but at the same time, I'm also there to run a business. If you check my profile, you will know I am in business. And that's like the first thing that I work on with every client is like, okay, we need to like refine this and make sure when someone opens up your bio, they find you through a hashtag, they find you through a reel. One of your reels did really fucking well. I
Yeah, I
remember.
remember I kept getting alerts like, it's doing great. I was like, whoa. And I'm trying to think about, I think I was talking about, like, right when I started to use voiceover, like you said, it was like, okay, I'm connecting and I'm doing it step by step. And that one, I think I spoke about, like, I'm trying to think what it was, kind of like, show like, this is who I am, like, as an artist, and like I'm accepting it, and like, kind of this like affirmation, like, yes, I'm doing it, this is who I am, and I want people to accept it. And I don't know if it was what I was talking, like, I wonder if what I was talking about somehow reached people, but that was very popular. And it was when I was drawing and I was talking about this thought in my mind about being an artist. And it's still, I still get alerts like, hey, it's doing great. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, like, yeah,
So you're seeing what works, right? And I think that that's part of the research. Artists are researchers. We need to research, our competitors. We need to research people in the same industry. We need to research whenever we're deciding what our prices are. We need to research, like, okay, this feels good. I'm doing my research. How is this, like, what is it going to look like? What's the data going to look like afterwards? Should I keep doing it? Should I stop doing it? Like, what are the results from this? Does it feel also like I'm comfortable going in this route now? And so leveraging that part, I remember one where you talked about like listening to a podcast and you were just talking to us and drawing. I felt like we were sitting in the living room together. Like I could envision that, thinking about how many people drive with podcasts on, thinking about how many people listen to audiobooks, thinking like I didn't listen to podcasts before I created one. Then I was like, I need to do my research and see what hits with me first. If you are like going off for an hour, like that's not going to be me. If you are talking, if you're doing like a couple 20-minute ones, that's going to work for me. If it's a really detailed topic, that's going to work for me. So like what is feeling comfortable for you is oftentimes going to resonate with us with your ideal client, with a small group of people. You don't need a lot of fucking people, right? Like if you have 100 followers, what all you need is one to purchase something.
right. I just want them to feel connection. And the funny thing about that was I didn't even realize when I was recording, I used a different device and I had the podcast on my phone and I listened to it and I was like, oh, you could hear the podcast. And I was gonna like play over it. And I thought like, oh, might as well just leave it. And then it could start a conversation with other artists. Like, do you listen to
Exactly.
podcasts? What do you listen to? And
Exactly. And those are ways around you like not showing up yet, right? And then one day you like hopped on. You were like, I'm late, but I felt like hopping on. And I before this we were talking about how like it's, of course it's second nature for me to like talk to my people. Like I like look at Instagram as like walking into a bar. I don't take it any differently than my real life, but I want to say hi to my friends. I want to say hi to like my Instagram people. Um I want to give them updates on my life, and that's just what I choose to do. But I do think that for the beginning of when you are transitioning into that business role, it definitely takes a level of like trusting yourself. Um I don't think it needs to be so planned out. I do personally do not use a content calendar. I use like projects in my head. Like I think big. And then I'm like, okay, how do I break that down into small bits and pieces? So when you show a detailed piece of your work, that's another bite-sized piece to introduce us to something. When you let us listen to your voice, that's a bite-sized piece into your world, right? Because our imaginations can run wild. Like there is no limit to what I can imagine when you provide me with something. Um and that's really how people are going to get into your world. People buy from people. And so they start by liking you. They start by liking what you have to say, what you stand for. They start by liking the concepts of your work. So if I have an apartment that's like more on the minimalist side, right? I would probably be automatically attracted to your linear drawings. And I might want that in my house because that matches like my aesthetic. You're allowing people to express their own style. That shit is like wild to me. Like, I don't need to express it. I can get dressed every day and I'm like good to go. But what's going to allow me to express myself is like, looking at someone else's art and letting me take that one step further. So, thank you for sharing all that.
oh,
Like,
sure. And, even you just saying that, like taking it a step further, it makes me think like, recently I shared a story of a drawing that I'm working on, and it's a little different than what I've been doing, and a few people that are close to me have responded, like, wow, like this is like they were really excited about it. And I was just thinking, like, maybe I should do a story about, just even talking about it. Like, the first step was showing a video because um, I haven't showed up all week and I wanted to show something. And now I'm thinking, like, okay, maybe I can do a video, like showing my face, saying, hey, I've been heads down working on this piece and showing and talking about it. So it's kind of like these steps of like, my initial thought is right, just like put an image or do a quick video of something without me, but then how can I tie that together and make it more personal?
Yeah, you're marrying this, like, what you've been doing for a long time with the next level of the video game. You know what I mean? It's like Super Mario has like cut down all the trees, whatever. And now the next level is like he's attacking boulders. And
I'm out
he's
Bowser.
like, and like all of a
Don't want to
sudden,
die.
right, he's hit like I don't know, a coin, and all of a sudden he zooms forward and then he slows down a little bit. Like that's how I see artists leveling up without using like those corporate words, and like what does it mean to level up? It means that you start to close those gaps where you're uncomfortable into habits, and you're starting to shift those perspectives from I hate this, I really don't want to do this. Okay, this is actually like kind of feels comfortable. I kind of want to share to like, yeah, here's what's happening behind the scenes. Let me catch you up. Like homegirl, like you're just talking to like your friends. And it's nothing more than that. You're not on stage butt naked. And the best part of it is like the idea that Instagram is such a momentous like, you know, not permanent. There is no permanency.
Especially the stories. You
Yeah,
would always tell me that, like, you could go up, show
totally.
your face, it's gonna be gone. Like, no
Literally.
one's gonna be like, I remember this time. Like, no, it's not there
You
anymore.
said this, and I was like, "Oh my god, her hair, one piece of hair was out of place." Like, no.
Right.
And also sometimes I get sad when my stories run out. I'm like, "What I said was really good." Like, I don't want it to run out in 24 hours, And then actually have learned to repurpose that, and I think everyone should do that. So, what if I saved a really good story, which I did yesterday, and then put those together as a reel? Boom. Like I subconsciously recorded like a great message and I saved all of them yesterday. Um and so, I think that what you're doing, you're like so on the fucking right path. You mentioned like, oh, I didn't post, I didn't show up all week because I was, working on stuff. Life was lifing, like whatever. Did that feel like, were you like embarrassed? Did that feel like shit? Did that feel fine? Like what came up?
Hmm. Yeah, I had a moment of like, oh, how do I get back to it? Because I felt like I was out of my momentum. Um, and then I find what works. Maybe it's just me. But if I find in that moment of like, I didn't post anything, what do I do? Like, okay, what's in front of me? Or I think I posted something of like some older work that I like. But then I want to be more like in the moment. So I posted something I'm working on.
I love it.
Um,
Oh my god, I love it.
Thank you.
Also,
And then it feels good to get that feedback because then it inspires me too. I'm like, okay, maybe I should talk about it. Like, let me get back into it.
well, it looks new. If I've been following you, if anyone's been following you, even for 2 months, like I haven't seen you use like watercolor, like I haven't seen you use like bolder shapes under like I'm seeing the progression of your work like right in front of my eyes. And I don't have to be in your studio to do that. That's the beautiful nature of social media platforms. Like I could be in Egypt and be like, how can I get that piece of drawing sent to me
Right.
for
You're seeing the progress and it's,
yeah,
yeah.
something's developing, some more is churning. I'm like, wow, that's, top quality work. Um, her work is leveling up. People just think it's like the business side of things that always has to expand. That is so, we're artists. People should be taking classes. People should be going to galleries. Like your skill has to level up if you want to charge more as well. Like my work in 2016 when I didn't have borders and I didn't have top-notch materials and I was using whatever and like didn't really care about size. I'm like, they'll just have to deal with it. Like whoever buys it will just, I don't know, good luck with the framing. Like now we're thinking about like, okay, everyone needs a little bit of a 1-inch border. Everyone needs like, how do I make this accessible and easy? And then looking at just that development makes me trust that you're providing me with top quality work. So as a last point, I want to just say that for everyone who's listening, consistency looks different to everyone. Showing up is going to look different for everyone. The way that feels is going to look different for everyone. But every time you show up, you're selling. Every fucking time. Every time. Every time you're posting, you're selling. Every time you're reminding us, you're selling. One person's going to see your work one day. They're going to miss a story for 3. Another person's going to see it. So repeating it is going to help. That's why we post all the time. That's why we show up all the time, because people are going to see different aspects of your social media content. And so that last question that ties into what we are already talking about is like, how often do we share? You share all the time. All the time. I can't tell you how many times that I've talked about my offer expiring, right? My one-on-one 4-month private coaching is expiring 2024. There's $1,000 discount. I'm working with Jalena with my 6-month package, right? And it's like so much can happen in just 1 month. It depends on how you work the program, right? Like it depends on how you work your gym membership. It depends on like what you want to do. You want to go and sip your freaking smoothie in the corner and watch everyone on the treadmill? Fine. Fine. Don't say you want sales. I'm sorry. Like, sorry, not sorry. Don't fucking say you want it. Right? Or I can get on the treadmill with my smoothie and take it easy. Then I can put my smoothie down, start running. It depends on what the results are, like what results you want. If I want to lose 10 pounds, I'm going to work that shit. My membership is costing me money and I want to lose this weight. And I want to look sexy in the new bathing suits I'm going to invest in. Like all of this is cyclical, people, all of it. Jalena,
I definitely had to put like, put aside any feelings of discomfort or like, all those feelings, right? I had to put aside and be like, if I want to make this work, like I have to get over it. Like it's fine. Like this is who I am. This is my work. And, I'm whatever I'm gonna have to say, hopefully people will like it. There will be people that don't, there'll be people that do, but if I want to make this next step, I know like these are the changes I'm gonna have to make. Like I can't be staying in the same, habits that I had before. So,
we don't have trolls. If they don't like it, they're not following you. I can guarantee you that.
That's true.
They're not. The people who are following you like it. Like they want more. That I can guarantee you. All right, all y'all. So we're gonna stop here. This was a great coaching session.
Thank you. I had fun.
I'm gonna follow up with her later for some feedback, because I think any good coach wants feedback no matter what. If you're interested in more of this, you can apply to work with me. You can join next week's Creators Power Hour, and please subscribe, share this podcast with someone else who may have a very similar story to Jalena or myself, right? I was a full-time artist for 5 years until I started Hammond in Brooklyn. And that collective turned into really finding my niche of coaching as an educator. So it was all like this natural progression. But those things stay with me forever. My experiences only build and stack. So if you are looking to have some similar results as Jalena, hop on. And thank you so much, Jalena. I'll talk to you all soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry.
Balloons. I don't know what the hell that is.
Congrats.